So welcome to this month's edition of What's Your Plan? I guess, your host, Steve Lorberbaum.
Woohoo!
I'm the owner. Oh, I need to figure out how to mute her, right? So no, I am the owner of Assisting Hands Home Care. I started it about 8 years ago with my wife, really with a goal towards providing knowledge and information as well as great caregivers. Our goal is to reduce the stress on families by being there when they can't be, and by giving them knowledge and information that can help them make living with a loved one with some illness or disability far easier. So that's really the goal. What Assisting Hands does is we put aids in people's homes. That's as simple as it is. Wherever home might be at the time. It could be a hotel for someone recovering from surgery, to a private residence, an apartment building, an assisted living, a hospital, a rehab, wherever someone is calling home for the moment. That's where we can bring in an aid in to help all over Montgomery County, parts of PG County, and Fairfax County, Virginia. But really, it's not about us. Today, it's about Sister Kathy. And Sister Kathy, I will let her introduce herself, but I'll give a quick highlight to say she's amazing. She has a great wealth of knowledge, and she's been providing that knowledge through Holy Cross Caregiver Resource Center for a very long time. So Sister Kathy, welcome. And if you would just give us a little background and tell us a little bit about kind of the support groups and other services that the Resource Center offers.
Thank you very much, Steve. That's quite an introduction. And also Janet has done a great job of publicizing this with our stroke aphasia support group, which I've joined just to learn. I was a teacher for, well, in education for 27 years, teaching or being an administrator. And I got to the point that I wanted to take a year off. I was tired of correcting papers. And in my trying to figure out what I was going to do for that year, someone suggested, well, check with the hospital. And I did, Holy Cross Hospital. And I'm a sister of the Holy Cross, by the way. And I did do that, and I ended up coming down here to the medical adult daycare as part of the activity staff. And after I'd been here, and I don't know whether it was a few months or a year or so, I began to think these people are so well taken care of. But what is happening with their families? And I don't know whether that came from homeschool associations or what. But I went to our director and we talked. And some of you may know our director at that point was Bob Grossman, who has since died of cancer and was a walking saint, living saint. And we talked about it, and he said, well, we could do a support group. And he said, I could go and get trained, and then you could go and get trained, and we could do it together. And we did. And when we had our first meeting, we had one caregiver of a participant at the daycare center. She stayed for all by herself. She stayed for the entire hour and a half for the group and never came back to another one. But we didn't let that bother us. We went on. And eventually, we, I guess, thought the hospital needed to be more involved with this, which is a nice way of saying we needed their support. And Bob wrote, I think, at least 3 proposals, and they all got refused. And finally, whichever administrator we were begging said, okay, go ahead and try it and see what happens. And that was, I've been here 36 or 37 years, so that was way back in the 80s, late 80s or early 90s. And ever since, I've been doing the caregiver resource part, and the daycare, which was already in existence, is recovering from COVID and getting back on its feet again after being closed for some time. And many of our caregivers are caregivers for people in the center, but also more and more out in the world. And the funniest thing happened it was kind of a 2-week thing. I got a call from a former member, his wife was in the center, he was a caregiver, and she has since died. And he's helping other people, because this is at least the second call I've had from him about trying to help a very uncooperative woman who needed health care, did not even have a doctor, and wanted a program that would be helpful for her. Well, while I thought about it, I got the information from Patricia about Assisting Hands. And I didn't know really anything about it except the name. But when I read it, I thought, this is perfect. So I sent, it didn't have anything about the woman didn't even have a primary care doctor, and he wanted that. And that wasn't in the information, but I forwarded it to him, and he called back and said it was perfect. And I had said in it, I'm sure that somebody at Assisting Hands can help you with finding a primary care doctor for the woman. So I'm hoping that's going well, or has gotten started by now, although it's only been a week. But I couldn't get over how that just fell in my lap while I was trying to figure out what in heck am I supposed to do with this.
Nice.
But that's a sideline. That's the commercial. We started the support groups with 1. We now have 7. And we have 3 for adult children who are caring for their parents, 3 for spouses, and 1 mixed. And 2 of the groups are in the evening, and then the rest are morning and afternoon groups. And they've been virtual since COVID. We never had a break in them when all this started and everything closed. We switched to, at that point, I don't even remember, maybe it was Zoom, but since then we've been through about 3 companies. Well, I said to the CEO at the time, I said, what is going to happen with the people, the caregivers that are coming to the groups? And he said, well, if you can figure out a way to do it virtually, but you can't have them coming in, and they still can't. And I had a computer. That was about all I knew about doing them virtually. But we have a director who is this, I don't know, what a gift. She knows how to do everything and likes it. She likes to solve problems and that kind of thing. So she's been a wonderful asset to this too. But our groups have grown. And a very interesting part is we've gotten international people when we went virtual. There's somebody from Italy whose mother just died Monday. So I don't know that that will continue, but it has, well, the time that she really needed it, she had it and got here before her mother died. She came on Thursday, and mother died on Monday. And we have several people in Florida, Texas, Rhode Island, you name it, who never would have been able to have come to the group. So it's been an asset, and it's going to demand, if we ever get out of this COVID period, some decisions about how we're going to continue the groups. I kind of think we're going to have some hybrid ones, so the people at a long distance can still benefit.
So let me ask you a question. So, I want to know, I'm caring for my spouse, I'm getting worn down, and now I need to turn to somebody. How do we find you? How do we find the groups? How do we find which is the right one for us even?
Holy Cross puts out this healthcare magazine, I think 4 times a year. And in it, they've got everything that they do up here. This is on the new cancer thing that they're making things in, but all the activities are in it, as the support groups, the exercise programs. I'm allergic to exercise, so I've never tried any of those. But, and they've been a big hit virtually too. People can stay home and do them. But also, I guess calling the hospital. It's more word of mouth though, I think, truthfully. And they call up and we talk and find out which kind of group, what their situation is and how we can help it. And now I'm at a point where what group fits best into your schedule and what would you like to join, and send us your email address and we'll add you to the group. And there's no limit to it, which there would be if behind me, you can see books, and that's our resource library for caregivers. And back from that is the group with about 12 chairs in it. And that's where up until COVID, we had our groups. But now there's no limit. Although there is a time limit, I'm beginning to realize. But that library, and I'm not answering your question, has all kinds of caregiver resource literature in it. You're looking at 1/4, I guess. I forget how many bookcases there are back there. And we can't use it because other people can't come into the building because we're affiliated with a hospital. So it's still sitting there, but I'm very anxious to get that open because there's so much good stuff in there.
And so is every group different? I mean, is there someone who monitors them or is a leader?
Me.
How do they, okay, so, and how do you pick topics and things like that? Does somebody just?
Oh, I don't. They come in and it's a chance to share with people, other people in the group, what you're going through, benefiting hopefully from what they're going through. And just a chance to get it out so you feel better when you leave, and hopefully you're better prepared to go home to yours or to the hospital or wherever your recipient of the caregiving is. But there is no agenda to it.
Gotcha.
Years ago, we had classes once a month. That was a learning situation, but that kind of fell by the wayside when I added so many groups. But it's just a sharing of feelings, asking for help, offering suggestions, getting suggestions, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. I know.
I facilitate it, but they're the ones who do the work.
Okay. Are there any that are, let's say, gender specific? I know sometimes men feel more comfortable talking around other men, or maybe women feel more comfortable sharing with other women. Does it break out like that, or am I just wrong?
No, well, some people do that, yes. And we had somebody a few years ago that did have a men's group, but ours are not.
Okay.
But by nature, they're mostly women.
Gotcha. Is that because we need to get more men to open up and share, or it's just the nature of the way it is?
For men, and I don't think they probably see themselves as a primary caregiver that's left to their wife or whatever. We do have a couple, but not many.
So how do you educate people? Because you raised a really good point. We oftentimes will talk to people and they don't see themselves as a caregiver. They just see them as doing their job as a spouse.
At one point,
to think right.
At one point, someone in the hospital decided I should go up there one afternoon a week. And they set up this room for me. And it was on the 5th floor where the people at that point anyway, were elderly and so on, would fit the description. And when they got off the elevator and kind of looked in, see what was going on, I said, "Are you a caregiver?" "Oh no, I'm just here to visit my husband who's a patient." They did not at all see themselves as caregivers, and there was no convincing them. Fortunately for me, the woman who set that up died. I quickly ended my term up there.
Well, so do you think it's kind of like hospice, where people are trying to rebrand it as sort of palliative care because hospice got a bad rep? Is it we need to come up with a different word for people that are caregivers because they don't see themselves as such?
That's a good idea.
All right, well, I'll let you think of the word.
I don't know. Oh my gosh, what time it is. I don't know, but that's a good idea. We could try it. And it would also get them to know that, what did I do here? The word palliative, most of them are not familiar with that.
Gotcha. Is there any component of the support group where it's sort of educational for added resources, or is it just an opportunity for people to share sort of their particular trials and challenges?
I think they're learning as we go along, but it's not a formal education, no. We've given up on those programs and just are trying to work with people where they are and give them the hope and the courage to keep going on. But number one, to take care of themselves, because if they don't, they're not going to be anybody to be the caregiver. And I seem to have turned off somehow my computer.
So I will help you then. there's,
I got it back.
it's all right. I see, one of the slides that came up was powerful tools for caregivers workshop, a free 7-week workshop. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's, somebody else is doing those. They've got several workshops. I took one of the first ones, and it really wasn't what I expected. But the real caregivers, and the last go round last year on those, the healthcare has a grant for that program, and they found them very helpful. So it is, and they're having one right now. And again, that is all virtual too. And there's another one starting in October. So I'm going to send that out to our caregivers so they can register, because the ones last year who took that found it very helpful and are still talking about it.
Gotcha. Good. So are any of the groups sort of what I'll call disease specific, in a sense that you've got folks, people that have Parkinson's all have similar challenges?
Mhm.
Same with dementia, same with stroke sometimes. Is it just anybody can come in and talk about whatever caregiving challenges they have, or they sort of segregate out by commonality of illness?
No, it's not segregated at all. There are more people coming who are caring for someone with dementia, but it is not limited. I think in my mind, it kind of started that way, but it hasn't gone that way, and I have never turned anybody away.
Gotcha. And so how long do they last?
90 minutes.
90 minutes. Okay. And again, so anybody, it sort of seems like there's a list of various times and people pick a time that works for them.
Right. So the evening ones work best for somebody who's working. The afternoon works best for somebody who has someone to watch their person at that time. There are all kinds of situations, but they're very good at working them out.
Gotcha. And right now, the workshop is closed, so people can, the resource center is closed, so people can't come in and look through the books and things like that.
Right. Everything is, we can't have entertainers yet for the daycare. There are a lot of restrictions. My door's closed, so I got my mask off, but if I weren't on the computer with you all or the group that comes next, I'd be masked, which we have all the time.
Gotcha.
Participants as well as staff.
Okay.
But
and so right now, there's no plan, or at least none that you know of, to start back with any of the in-person groups.
Not yet.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think we have to get permission from Trinity Health, probably. I don't know who. Well, the county too. But
Well, I
it
think
isn't up to us.
it seems that every hospital group sort of has their own, I think, rules as to how they choose to permit or not permit activities. Because I know there's some things where Oasis, which is a suburban sponsored education program, they did a lot of Zoom classes, but they've now started again allowing people in class. So they go to the Montgomery Mall location. So you may want to promote to your upper management that if suburban can figure out a way, maybe you all can. Just saying.
Maybe
Not
it's
that they want to
Trinity
cause
Health is
problems.
limiting us. I don't know. That's a good point. I didn't know that.
Yes, I don't know how many they're doing.
Have them back.
I see in here that Janet posted some information about stroke survivors, and I know the stroke support group does a wonderful job of also having support opportunities to share information and to talk online. So if anybody is interested, there is information in the group as well. Oh, she's writing further. So in event, look, Janet, there's just the 4 of us. So if Sister Kathy, you don't mind, we can let Janet give a plug for her stuff as well. Does that work?
Let me give one too. I go to her aphasia group because I wanted to learn, and it's the best thing. It's every other Friday, and I go home a different person after I've been in that group than a regular. It's so inspiring, and they work so hard, and they're so willing. It's a great experience. Any of you want to get into that?
Right. Well, one of the great, Janet, you're on mute, so we can't hear you. No, I don't know if she can hear us, but in the event. One of the great things about this area is there are so many resources available to people for education, for support. We're blessed in our area to be able to have such people like Janet and like Sister Kathy.
Yeah.
Like,
So-
I'm unmuted now. I wanted to
yeah,
say,
I unmuted
wanted
you.
to thank Sister Kathy for that comment. She does attend many of the sessions, and the 2 a month that I do as a speech pathologist, they're free. They're open to stroke survivors, the caregivers, and any healthcare professionals like Sister Kathy. So sometimes we have another speech pathologist or an OT or a PT, social worker, and they can share their resources and their suggestions as well. I put it in the chat so that when people see your recorded session, maybe some of them have stroke concerns and they'll know it's not just my group or Montgomery County Stroke Association's programs, but I have a 2-page list of online resources for stroke survivors that I'm happy to distribute to anyone who wants to see them.
The information she provides is fantastic.
Terrific.
And then where she gets the time to do the groups and then print all that stuff out so we have it is beyond my
Well, that is
imagining.
great. So I know Sister Kathy has to get off a little bit early today, so we've got a few more minutes. So Megan, I don't know if you have any questions that, since it's just a small group today, feel free to chime in and ask away.
Yeah, what about, you might have touched on in the beginning, but resources for caregivers who also may be seniors, right? Folks who Zoom is not an option, right? And thinking newly diagnosed partners and trying to help their spouse as they navigate these early stages, but they are unable to the technology is not quite there yet. So Zoom is not a great option for them.
Many people have gotten around that by having children or a neighbor or somebody come in and teach them how to do it or connect them for the first time. They're clever, and it's turned off some of them, and most of them to begin with know more about it than I did. I'm still limited. It's just I'm too old to have it be my thing like this, but that really hasn't been a problem since the very beginning.
Okay, that's great.
So I would say, Megan, to your point, while it's a service you have to pay for, geriatric care managers can provide a great deal. They're called aging life care professionals. They really can provide a great deal of information and knowledge to help people, because they are going into people's homes and they are meeting with people to help seniors helping their loved ones. So it isn't just about providing a care plan. It is also their job to provide information and knowledge, and some are amazing to work with. So
and they include things like the support groups or Janet's program or anything like that. They're very good about bringing practical things to those caregivers.
Right. So, all right. Well, if we have nothing else, we have about a minute before Sister Kathy has to go. So I do want to thank everyone for attending this month's What's Your Plan? We do this on a monthly basis. We thank Sister Kathy not only for all the work you do, but for being available to share it with us today. So with that, Sister Kathy, any parting shot words?
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed the opportunity, as worried as I was about it. And I appreciate all that you have done, and I'm so edified by what you have done with your life, Stephen, by starting this whole company.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for attending this month's What's Your Plan? We'll see you again next month. I don't know who we have up, but again, we will have another interesting and entertaining guest. So thank you all.
Great. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Steve.
All right.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Sister Kathy.
Bye-bye.